Oh my gosh, what do? I can't stop. I can't stop, right? I've done that. I'm like, oh my word, what am I doing? What thing am I doing next? But if I just stop. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Tracy and I'm from the sewing channel on YouTube. So if you haven't seen me on YouTube, you need to go on YouTube and you need to look up the sewing channel and watch my videos. No, you don't have to. I do a lot of free motion quilting on my domestic sewing machine at home. It helps because I don't have to send it out. I hate to give up that creative process about the quilt. And it's not that you can't send it to a long armer, because Di is a really good long armer, and if you want to, you should definitely send it to her because she'll do an awesome job, right, Di?
That's right.
But say you have a table runner. You're not going to send that to Di, are you? Maybe.
People do.
Right, I know. But I'm here to tell you that you can do it on your home domestic sewing machine, and it can be absolutely beautifully done. And it just takes practice. So I've given you each a handout. Quilt on the top there. I had thought about bringing this, but it would have been way too heavy to bring. And this was the very first quilt that I ever free motion quilted on. And you can see it, like I went happy crazy on it because I was just like, let me do this. I want to learn it. I had a desire to learn it, and I just kept going and going and going. And it didn't matter what it looked like at the time because I was having so much fun on it. And I even implemented a tiny heart in each block because this was my daughter's quilt for her to be able to find later when she was, you know, looking at it or laying with it or whatever. Something that I could implement in the quilt to make it different, and it was free motion quilted. And a lot of times, you know, your long armor will charge you more to do that probably, I'm sure, but.
Of course I do.
Yeah. Even if you do send it to a long armor, you could still do that on your domestic sewing machine after you got it back. You could put little hearts in or little secret things that you want, you know, the person that's receiving the quilt to get. So I take that picture and put that on here to show you the close-up there of how absolutely awful it looked. But this was like my practice quilt, for real. This is what I practiced free motion. It was a quilt as you go. So I had all these little blocks, and then I sashed them to go together. And I did this all, mind you, on a $200, $300 Brother machine from Walmart. I quilted this entire quilt with that. I didn't know any different, so it was wonderful, you know. I have since upgraded, you know, to the Juki, but I want you to see, though, that you can do it with even just a cheap machine that I got at Walmart, and it worked perfectly. So I say here, if you want to free motion quilt your quilts, the first thing you have to do is what? Start. You have to start. So many people are so afraid. Raise your hand and tell me if you've ever free motion quilted.
Oh yeah. Well,
so you've tried it.
I don't like it.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
So I want to learn how to do that.
Absolutely. So do you think if you perfected it, that you would love it?
Yeah.
Can I tell you that you will never perfect it? You'll always just get better and better and better and better at it. You'll get better at the motioning with your hands and whatnot. And we'll get into a little bit how that all works, because it's really hard to move your hands and your foot pedal and your brain at the same time. I mean, I don't know about you guys. It's hard for me. So you have to start. And you have to really think, do I have a desire for this? And if you do, go for it. I want you to just go for it. I don't want you to just say, you know what, it's not for me. It's not for me. Go for it and just keep going. And do a, 50 block quilt like I did there and just sash it and go. You need to figure out what needle and thread, right? Needle and thread's always the hardest, am I right? Like, what do I do? Well, can I tell you that I use the same needle and the same thread for everything that I absolutely do, unless it's a stretch fabric. The same needle, same thread. I use a 9014 and I use Omni thread, polyester. It's not for everybody, but it's for my machine, and my machine loves it. When I put cotton in my TL QVP or TL18 QVP, it had a drag to it, and I hated it. and there was a lot of fuzz and buildup everywhere. So you need to figure out what works for your machine. If you are currently using, if what you're using isn't working, then you need to experiment. Go to an 80-12 and see if that works. The brother after the cheap brother from Walmart, I had another brother, and I can't think of the name of it or the number.
Is he a brother from another mother?
Yes. Well, that one I used an 80-12, and I used Superior So Fine polyester thread. But when I got my Juki, I tried that same old thing, right? I'm like, oh, my threads was snapping. You know why? Because this is one of the most powerful machines I've ever sewn on. It is so powerful. So it was snapping my So Fine thread because it was so fine. So I have a Juki TL, like I said, and I use a Superior titanium top stitch needle, 9014. Works beautiful in my machine. Now, if you don't have such a powerful machine, try 80-12 with a polyester if you're having trouble with your cotton threads. People are amazed when they put polyester in their machines because they've been told for so long, cotton, cotton, cotton. Well, I'm here to tell you that cotton is not the only thread, my friends. It's not. They try and tell you it is, but it's not. I don't know why they tell everybody that, but they do. Probably because cotton fabric, they're thinking cotton thread go together. I've had some people tell me, well, polyester thread's going to slice through my cotton quilt. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? They say because it's not cotton, but you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But if it works and you're using it, keep using it. So the combo this combo that I use now would never have worked in my old machine. So examples of thread not working, thread dragging through the machine. I could literally hear and feel with all my senses when I had cotton thread in my TL. I could feel almost like a tension drag. It was the weirdest thing, but I could tell. I could totally tell, especially when I switched to polyester, or I'm sorry, yeah, the Omni. Huge difference. I got no drag, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's going through smooth. You can just tell if you know your machine.
You're welcome.
Yes. Oh yeah. Di is
Omni.
she uses Omni in her long arming, and she told me about that, and I'm like, and she used Superior brand, same as I did with the So Fine, and I tried it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. So thank you to Di for sure. If your thread is breaking every couple seconds, or even every minute, or every 30 minutes. That should not be the case, can I tell you. Your thread should not be snapping off ever. Okay, these machines were meant, and the thread was meant, and the needle was meant for you to smoothly get through your project without all these snappity snaps, right? Those are just a couple reasons. They should never be snapping. You should be using a minimum 40 weight thread, which cotton does make that, so, or like Orifel, a lot of people like that. So if that works for you, you should be using especially with free motion quilting. Because we're using so much power and so much friction in this machine, it's crazy. I mean, really, the thread takes a beating. It really does. We don't think it does. And I just learned off of a Tula Pink video that thread comes off in a certain way that it's meant to come off. It has a grain. So, I mean, it's so interesting. And anybody that wants to talk further about English paper piecing and the thread, see me later. I mean, a great tip there. Examples of needle not working. Thread shedding. Oh, shredding at the eye of the needle. Have you ever had where you were testing out new thread and you could literally see like your thread breaking at the needle, right? Like just like slivers of it. That should not be happening. That tells me that your needle hole is too small or your thread is too thick, okay? So you should never be having that. And that's general rule in general, just not for free motion quilting. Visible poke holes in the quilt. The eye of the needle needs to have enough room for the thread to glide through it. I find that a top stitch needle is best for free motion quilting. And I find a top stitch needle is best for any kind of quilting. I use it like I said, I never switch. I'm the type of person, if I have to have 20 needles and 20 threads, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. I'm not. I want to be able just to have the one thing that I know is going to work, and I do it. And I use it faithfully, and it's never steered me wrong. I don't know why people use all the different. I mean, I'm sure stretch and all that. fabrics, you do need different, but I don't do that. I've put a guide in here to show you the weight of thread that you would need for the recommended needle size. And this is with anything, and you can see there we've got our 40 weight at 90/14. That's just a general guide for you, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to use. Well, here you go. Just, you can follow that at first and try and see. Now, what foot to use for free motion quilting? How many of you came with a darning foot in your kit, right? You all got one. And those are what you use for, or an embroidery foot they're called. Those are your free motion quilting feet that you would use. And they're generally a hopping foot. As you can see there in the pictures, there's a spring inside of it. And those are so that it glides across all those rough intersections that we put in our quilt, right? That's going to help you get over those, because it's going to just hop along, I have had trouble trying to use a ruler foot. It does not hop along and gets caught up on my intersections. So it's something to keep in mind. You need to know, do you have a low or a high shank sewing machine? If you didn't get a darning foot or an embroidery foot with your sewing machine, you need to know to order it what shank size you need. So you need to know that. I think ours are high shank. The Jukis are high shank. Always reference your manual too. The pros and cons to open or closed toe feet. Now you can see here I've given you 3 options there: the open toe, the closed toe, and the ruler foot. Now the open toe I get angry with sometimes, because when I'm free motion quilting, guess what happens? If I go over a side that I just did, or I need to pass over, that open toe grabs my thread and pulls on it. And however hard I'm pulling, it pulls with it. And I'm like, oh, that's a con. Closed-toed foot, the pro is that does not happen. But with the closed-toed foot, you're able to not have that happen. But the con would be that you have to drop your needle down and up, and you have to play with your tweezers trying to get the thread back up because it's closed. So it's just, a little bit of how those work anyways. And typically your machine probably came with an open toe. A ruler foot is to be used with thick rulers made for free motion quilting. So there's that. Okay, how do you install a free motion quilting foot? Well, I can show you real quick here. If none of you know, which probably you all know, right? You take your tool or your screwdriver that came with, oh no, that's not. And then you come over here and you loosen. I tightened it, so now you loosen it. Take it off, and then we're going to use, let's start with the open toe. I had to get this one special. It's a free motion quilting foot open toe that goes off to the side. So if you've ever watched any of my videos, I will turn my Juki on its side, and I have a big table, and this will allow me to attach on and be able to see that side view. If I don't use it, I have a bar in front of me. So they actually make one for you to turn your machine sideways, and I recommend this if you're free motion quilting on anything really big. So it's just a side note. So this you just slip on just like any other sewing foot, and you're going to tighten up. And you're going to use your little tightener too, because we want to make sure that it's tight. One time I didn't make sure it was tight enough, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So you want to make sure that that's tight. And also at this point when you do that, you want to make sure that you tighten the needle, because a lot of times these are so powerful that your needle screw will slightly come off. Always check that. That is a good way to get hurt if you don't do that. I mean, seriously, even in just general quilting, you need to do that. So that's all you do for that. You need to follow your own manual, if you have something different than this. You need to adjust your stitch length to 0 on your machine. You need to disengage your feed dogs and attach your extension bed. You want the largest space that you can possibly get. Some people, like I know April from April Stories, she has She has a drop-down table. Do any of you have that? Like a drop-down table where you have a whole desk? I mean, that, right? That would be lovely. I would love that. So, where you take old, like, tables, kitchen tables, and make a rectangle and drop it in. Can you imagine having all that space? Oh, I would love that. So, she has that. I think she had that made for her. The tools that I use. So, that's how you get that prepared. The tools I need nearby, needle nose tweezers. This is really good for pulling up the fabric, grabbing onto the tails and whatnot. This one happens to be a Tulip Pink one, but they have them, generic brand, that are just as good. Curve snips. I can't say enough about curve snips. I have literally snipped into my quilt top and made a hole in it, and that is the most horrible thing you can do. I don't know if you can see, when you lay that down, the curve, you can just imagine the curve lifts up so you're not digging into your quilt. Oh my word, like you don't want to do that. I'm always afraid. This is a game changer. Get yourself, you need curve snips. Oh, let's see. A pair of free motion quilting gloves. Oh, and your oil too. You need your oil. I'm sure Di has oil in there.
You want oil on it?
No, I mean, are you oiled? I had it all over my hands. I figured you oiled her up. Extra wound bobbin thread, depending on how big your project is, and your oil. And free motion quilting gloves. When I first started, I used garden gloves from the dollar store. You know, why not? And these ones recently I just bought online. And what are they? Who?
Is that the Machine Gear brand?
I think it's generic. I don't know. But this, they have, once you put it on here, you can probably see. They have like a grippy there and a grippy on that side. So no matter which way you put your glove, it's going to grip. So those are the things that I keep nearby. You're going to make practice quilt sandwiches. I know that you all have scraps, right? Do you? I mean, am I the only one? Because I don't know.
No, I've done it too.
Okay. Whoop. I dropped my scraps back here. Whoop. So here you can see I just have taken what I have at home and just made squares, blocks, different spots that I can maybe practice circles in this one, or, you know, maybe this half square triangle that's in here, I could do a design that I've been thinking about and see how it literally looks in a half square triangle. And just whatever. It's like whatever. And then fabric that I don't want. I don't want this. I didn't want this. Came from my mom's stash. I don't want it. So I put it on the back of this. And this too. I don't want it. I've got so much Christmas. So I just threw it on the back of this quilt sandwich here. And again, scraps. Anybody can throw these together. Practice your piecing and piece these scraps together. And in this I have a cotton batting, and I did spray base them at home. So these have been spray basted together. So, I mean, it's like, I'm going to set this one right there. So it's like whatever. So now here, this is where I'm going to get into actually showing you how to drop the needle down and grab the thread and all that. So I don't know. If you guys want to get up and look, you can. You're more than welcome if you want to come closer, and then even if you just want to stand next to the thing, yeah, you're more than welcome, please. I encourage you to, because that's the only way you're going to know how to do it. So you have your little tools next to you. I've never taught this live, just so you know. So I'm going to go into a seam on this one just because, you know, it'll help hide it if I was hiding it. All I did was hit needle down, right? Now what I'm going to do is hit needle up. Now I don't know if you can see here, but I have this thread right here, right? Initially, and my needle went down and it grabbed the bobbin thread and it came back up. Now I'm going to take this tail, I don't know if you can see that, and I'm just going to pull that, and I have this little tiny like bristle of a hair sticking up, right? That right there. That is my bobbin thread. I'm going to pull that out like so. Now, no matter what I do, look, oh, I messed up. No, you didn't. If you move it like that, oh, I messed up. No, you didn't. You're going to bring it back. You're going to hold these two tails, come back to where you were, hover this foot back over top of that hole. Let me take these off. Pull up any slack because you don't want slack there. This ensures that you don't have anything underneath. Hover and go back down. Drop your foot. Now I'm going to take a couple stitches. Lift back up. Now I can snip this now, or I can just continue and then snip it after this is out of the way. I'm just going to go like this. Now me, I don't care if there are threads. I don't. And that's all I do there. Now if you wanted to bury that thread, what you would do, really pull that thread up, okay? And I can show anybody that. And what you do is thread a hand needle. Who wants to do that? Not me. And re-put it back in after you're done. I mean, I don't know. If you want to do that, you can. I don't do that. I just don't. I get as close as I can and leave it. So, okay, that's garbage. Okay, so then you're going to get your gloves on. What I encourage you to do is just start doing anything. Start doing lines. Go up. I'm just doing lines and go back. I learned this from what's her name now? Juki Junkies. Why can't I think of her name? Gigi. At Juki Junkies, she taught me this. You press your foot down at pedal to the metal and you change your speed, which I didn't change it on this. Change it to about 30 or 50% and hit pedal to the metal. You never have to think about your foot again. Isn't that awesome?
Say that again.
She changed the way that I free motion quilted with that little tidbit.
So say that again.
Your foot is going to be pedal to the metal. You're going to push all the way down. In the meantime, your speed is going to be at 30 to 50%, and it is on your handout too. That is going to make you not have to think about one thing, and that's your foot, and until you stop, until you need to stop. You change your speed to about 30 to 50%. I had it on high speed there. And I mean, you can hone in your stitches later. I don't even want you to worry about what they look like, how wide they are, how long, because we are the stitch regulator. There's no stitch regulator. We are that when we do this. So now I'm at 50% and I'm at pedal to the metal. And I'm just moving my hands. I'm not thinking about my foot. Now I'm gonna go like this and I'm just gonna add in some whatever. I'm gonna do some of that. I might go in and go, let me try some little stuff. Maybe I was thinking about some circles. Can I do it? I don't know. Maybe I'll go in a circle like that. Just playing. I just want you to play. Go like this. Go inside of your loop. Maybe go back to straight again if you don't have it figured out. In free motion quilting, you don't want to do this. What am I doing when I do that? Yeah, your stuff's it's gonna bust and break. And the other thing you don't want to do is take these corners harshly. If you do that, you're gonna get loops on the top and the back. And I don't know if I can replicate it because I've taught myself not to do it, but like say I'm going and I'm like this, which I am. Oh, a little bit, but not much. So you just want to make sure that you just take your time. Echoing. Echoing is a good filler. So say that you're, let's see, I don't know, give me a shape or something. What am I going to do here? Like, let me get out of this black. So say you want to do a swirl. You're going to go in, and this just takes practice, I'm telling you. But when you get around that little thingy, you're going to go back. Like that. You want to keep your hands in an invisible square in front of you. If I do this, that's a no-no. That is, I don't want to do that. You got to stay in, your hands have to, picture this box. And your hands want to stay right inside of that box. You have the most control inside of this box. A meander. I utilize a meander so much on my quilts. They're the easiest thing to do. Now a meander, you're just going to swirl around, come out, go back. Now you can see how my hand, look at my right hand. I'm going too far. When that happens, you are literally stop. You can actually feel yourself getting out of the the box. Stop, readjust. So many people on my channel did not know that you have to do that. That is huge in free motion quilting. Watch what I do here. I'm gonna go, stop. I'm gonna go way over, stop. Do you see how that has to happen? Lift and stop, lift and stop. Let's see, that felt uncomfortable. Stop, readjust. That's huge. I didn't do that for the longest time. Stop, but just stop, because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, what do? I can't stop. I can't stop, right? I've done that. I'm like, oh my word, what am I doing? What thing am I doing next? But if I just stop. And someone else had told me their shoulders. Who was it?
Me.
Who? Yes. Her shoulders would get so tight. Don't be tight. You want to sit. You see how this arm, my arms are like at a 90-degree angle almost, right? They're comfortably sitting here. I'm not stressed. Shoulders are down. I'm usually a little closer though. This would fall off if it was. So you just want it nice, shoulders down, and just relax and have fun with it. Pedal to the metal. I didn't stop. Just go around and just play. Just play, really. I mean, you can twist it a little bit, but not a whole lot. And in my sewing room, I have hooks on the walls for my big quilts. They get hooked up there. And that way, there's a thing called drag in free motion quilting, and it's a real thing. And it's hard. So I've, put them up on the wall so that I can, whatever.
So, just a question.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a large quilt,
Grab my water.
I've heard that it's better to start in the middle of the quilt.
Yes, I do that.
You do that, and you do that.
Yep, I'll go depending on the quilt itself, I'll start in the middle and go to the right. Stop once I get to the end, the edge, come back, start again in the middle and go to the edge. Whatever top, left, right, bottom, left, right, just do one of them to the corner and then so on.
So when you're doing a large quilt, like a double queen type size quilt, because you have such a short throat space there. So how do you roll that up so that you can still do free motion? I mean, I saw that you had a picture of you sitting in front of your machine.
Yes, that's the beauty of the Juki can be turned. And so when you turn it, and I have this table that actually goes and inserts. It's for a Juki. See, this would be too far, I think, for me. Or maybe it would work if I push this toward me. I don't know. Can I squeeze?
But you can't do it with the setup that way, with the needle setup that way, or you can't?
You can, but you can see how this bar actually, and with the side one, it's actually turned and adjusted to actually meet the need of a side saddle, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I maybe could do it. I don't know, without the big table. Maybe. Oh, let me see. Oh, so you were asking about that. So yeah, so in that case, I have unlimited room here.
Yeah.
When it's turned on its side, yes. So this right here, this would be up on one of my hooks and the other side, and it would kind of work itself out in here, if you know what I mean. And because I'm working down here, and you need to figure out, is it easier for me to free motion quilt coming toward me, depending on the design, or away from me. Like what I mean by that is if I wanted to do, like that's gonna fall off. Like if I wanted this to come toward me, or if I wanted the design to come away from me, like this, that I'm going up toward this way, that would take a lot of this slack out if I was doing it that way. I've tried both ways just to see, you know. Yeah, it's like trial and error. But I wanted to show you. I brought you a quilt to share with you on, I did this 80 by 80 in diameter quilt all on my Juki home sewing machine. And this is my color wheel quilt that I am like in love with right now. And this is all done on my domestic. It can be done. And it can be done properly and in a way where it's, you know, looks decent enough. And this one is a design that I came up with called geometric graffiti. And it's just a random of, you know, whatever shapes and different things. And the beauty about this design is you can literally sew into the triangle here and come back out and then figure out, well, what do I want? A box, a rectangle, a triangle, whatever. I even have some hexagons and octagons on here, you know, just because I was like, okay, let me try that. Let me try that. And so this was all, this design I came up with the minute I sat down to free motion quilt it, if you can believe it. Because I was like, what am I going to do on this? Like, this quilt deserves something that I've never done before, right? But I couldn't think of it until I sat down and I was like, oh, It needs harsh lines because of the harsh lines. I just saw it that way. Some people would say, oh, well, it needs soft lines because, you know, but I'm not like everybody else, so. But anyways, this is my quilt, my latest, and I love it. I backed it with, I don't know if we can turn it. Oh yes, you can see the quilting too a lot better. I backed this with a blanket that I found at, Burlington Coat Factory. It was 90 by 120. And I said, it was $22. And it had that seal of the OKEO or whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about? Where it comes from sustainable, good, healthy, there's no chemicals in it, all that. And it had that stamp on it. And I was like, it's mine. And it did have some lines itself in it, but it adds, I think, to the geometric of it, kind of, you know, it just all went together.
Did you put a bat in between?
For batting, I used flannel, one piece of flannel. And that's what gives it this, I mean, I don't know if you can see, let me drape it over your shoulder. Let me drape it on you. Here, you can drop it. Go ahead and drop. You can see the drapeability that it has. I mean, it's not stiff. Is it stiff? No. I slept with it last night. I know. And the bind on this one is a flange binding. I did cut it on the bias, and I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't have because it did ripple a little bit for me. I know it probably doesn't, you know, it's not a big deal. But I did cut it on the bias, and maybe I shouldn't have. But live and learn.
Cut the circle and then
Yes.
quilt it. You didn't quilt
Oh,
it
no, I quilted it square.
and then cut it.
Yes, absolutely. You want any quilt design that you do, you want to quilt it first before you trim it to the size that it needs to be. And I have a full tutorial on YouTube for this, but it's 2 hours long. So just,
Watching it last night.
well, I just put out a 7-minute version. So if you want to watch that one, because I know who's got time for 2.5 hours. I mean, some people, like I would watch it if it's something I wanted to learn, but. So that's this right here. Let me set this here. One I also did on my domestic. I couldn't think of which one to bring. Is it upside down? Yeah. Now, mind you, this one I brought because it got one of the least amount of views on my channel. And I couldn't figure out why for the life of me because I love this quilt. This one was all hand-picked pieces that I cut for this quilt. The background is all done in your low volume, and I call it my citrus quilt. And I had all kinds of different bee fabric that I incorporated into it. and I just loved it. I just thought, oh, it's busy and it's fun. And you know, my youngest daughter came home from college when she saw this, and she goes, oh, Mom, she goes to college in Florida, Pensacola, right? And she goes to the beach a lot. She said, Mom, this would be perfect for the beach. Can I take it to the beach? I said, are you nuts? What is wrong with you? She literally begged me for this quilt. She said it's perfect to lay out on in the sun. I said, first of all, it's got the most expensive batting you could ever buy in it, which is wool batting. It's batted with wool, and it's done. This is like this is probably the only traditional quilt that you'll probably ever see me do. This is very traditional. You know, it has the cotton batting, cotton backing, a piece top with wool batting. So this, I don't usually do traditional, but I did on this one. So that's this one. And dye, you know, she never liked this at first, the top border and the bottom border. And this, I love it because it gives that just a different view, you know, than putting that full. Not all of us are going to have quilts on show where they can see all of the, you know. So I don't know. I really do like this quilt. That's why I chose to bring this one. So there's that. So I say all this to tell you that you can literally make magic on your machine. But what do you have to do first, right? Start. Oh, how to tie off. There are a few ways to do it. You can stop and use your thread cutter, which I do a lot. But then you'll have to trim your tails. You will. If you don't mind seeing the little tiny knobbity knot on the back, I don't really mind. You can sew right off the edge of the quilt top, and I do that a lot. And all I mean by that, I'm just going to go off here into the batting, and then I can literally clip my threads just like that. And same as the beginning where I told you where you can grab your needle and thread, you would stop and pull those threads up and get a needle and bury them, just like hand sewing. That's all it is. So Di said, I asked her ahead of time if anybody wanted to come up here and try on this quilt sandwich. You are more than welcome to do so. Who wants to try it? We're at practicing.
Okay.
Where's my water at?
Gloves like that, and I love them.
As soon as you're done.
Yes.
Do you do any ruler work on yours?
I have tried some, and you know, I don't prefer it just yet, but I don't know it just yet, and that's usually what happens with me. If I don't know it right off the bat, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. But then I think about it, and I'm like, you can do it. You just need to practice. Mm-hmm.
It's for me, it was a mental thing.
Yeah.
It was like, can I do this? Can I do that? Yes, I can.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, you're doing good.
You be a pro.
Nope, now you should have, now, okay, stop for a second. Yep, you should stop when you get to that point because you don't want that bobble.
Yeah, I did that.
Reminds me to let go of the rope from the movie The Great Outdoors. Just stop. Let go of the rope.
Stop and readjust your hand. Yeah, see? It makes life a lot easier. I never knew that at the beginning.
I always
felt
watch
afraid
you.
to get started again, that I would jerk because it's starting.
And I always
That's beautiful.
watch you stop and readjust and stop and readjust. Now
No,
I know why.
now if you're feeling like you're too much, now, okay, stop. I'm going to slow you down even a little bit more. Now try it and be sure to stop. Okay, I see your right hand's getting too far. There you go.
Oh, that speed is much better.
Mm-hmm. I don't want you to worry about stitch length as much, really, and keeping them the same. That comes later.
So that foot actually turned.
That one right there. If that foot, if you want to look at it, it's right there. It's a sideways foot from Juki.
And that's this?
Yep. So when I hook it on, see, let me show you. When I put it right here, if you line it up here, so if I hook this onto my machine, look at, now it's facing me.
Okay, so I do all my free motion on an old Singer A91, which is flat with the probably can't get it.
You may be able to. I don't know if all machines do that. Turn.
Called a side.
I don't know what it's called. Yeah. Who else wants to try? Nobody else wants to try. Only one person wants to try. Okay, she's coming up already, so let her kind of, and then you're next for sure. Yeah, get on it. The class is over, but feel free to come up and look at my quilts. I don't mind you touching them.
Can we all thank Tracy? Give her a
You're welcome.
I hope everybody learned something from it.